The conference room at Sterling Technologies had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle. I sat in the corner seat, laptop open, taking notes like I'd been doing for the past 6 months. My brother Marcus stood at the head of the table, presenting the Q3 projections with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Revenue is up 18%, Marcus announced, clicking through his PowerPoint. We're on track for the Series C funding round. Goldman Sachs is very interested. Dad, Richard Sterling, founder and CEO, nodded approvingly from his seat. Excellent work, son. This is exactly the leadership this company needs. I typed quietly, recording every word. The expansion into the European market is proceeding ahead of schedule, Marcus continued. We've secured partnerships with 3 major distributors in Germany and France. By this time next year, Sterling Technologies will be a truly global operation. My stepmother Claire beamed at him from across the table. Marcus, you're simply brilliant. Richard, you must be so proud. I am, Dad said. Marcus has proven himself time and time again. He's got the Sterling business instinct. I kept my eyes on my screen, fingers moving across the keyboard. Marcus noticed me then. He always did, eventually. Emma, are you getting all this? I need these notes distributed to the full board by end of day. Yes, I said simply. Good. That's really all you're here for after all. He smirked. Someone's got to take the meeting minutes while the adults handle actual business. A few people around the table chuckled. I'd learned not to react to comments like these. I'd been working at Sterling Technologies for 6 months now, ever since graduating from business school. My official title was Executive Assistant to the Board, which really meant I took notes, scheduled meetings, and ordered catering. Marcus, Claire said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Emma probably doesn't even understand half of what you're discussing. All those complicated financial terms. True, Marcus agreed. Emma, do you know what a Series C funding round is? I looked up at him. Yes. Really? Want to explain it to the room? The trap was obvious. If I explained it correctly, I was showing off. If I stumbled, I was proving their point. I chose silence. That's what I thought, Marcus said. Stick to what you're good at, little sister. Taking notes, ordering lunch, scheduling meetings. Leave the actual business to the professionals. Dad cleared his throat. Marcus is right, Emma. You're still learning. It's good that you're here observing, but you need to understand your limitations. You graduated from business school, yes, but you don't have any real-world experience. You haven't built anything. You haven't closed any deals. I understand, I said quietly, returning to my typing. The meeting continued for another hour. Marcus outlined expansion plans that would require significant capital. Dad discussed the company's burn rate and runway. Claire, who held a VP title despite never actually working, suggested throwing a gala to raise the company's profile among investors. I recorded everything. After the meeting ended, people filed out. Marcus lingered, walking over to my corner of the room. You know, Emma, he said, hands in his pockets, I respect that you wanted to try the family business. But maybe it's time to accept that not everyone's cut out for this world. There's no shame in finding something more your speed. Like what? I asked, still not looking up from my laptop. I don't know. Teaching? Nonprofit work? Something that doesn't require, ruthless business instinct. He leaned against the table. Dad and I have been talking. We don't think you're happy here. I'm fine. Are you though? You barely speak in meetings. You don't contribute ideas. You just sit there typing. He shook his head. This isn't an entry-level job, Emma. This is pity employment. Dad felt bad that you came back from business school with all these expectations, so he created a position for you. But we both know you're not actually adding value. I saved my notes and closed my laptop. Is there anything else you need, Marcus? See, that's what I mean. No fire. No passion. You're not a Sterling, Emma. Not really. He straightened up. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to help you understand reality. Some people are built to lead companies. Others are built to support them. There's nothing wrong with being support staff. I'll have the meeting notes distributed within the hour, I said. Marcus sighed. Whatever. Just make sure the formatting is correct this time. Last week's notes had inconsistent bullet points. He left. I sat alone in the conference room for a moment, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Then my phone buzzed. David Chin, Quantum Capital Partners. I answered. David. Emma, we need to discuss the Sterling Technologies position. David's voice was all business. He'd been my investment director for 3 years, ever since I'd started building my portfolio in earnest. The quarterly review shows some concerning trends. I know, I said quietly, glancing at the door to make sure I was alone. I'm seeing it from the inside now. Your brother's European expansion is overextended. He's burning through cash at an unsustainable rate. The Goldman Sachs Series C he keeps mentioning? I made some calls. They're interested but not at the valuation Marcus is assuming. What's the gap? He's expecting $300 million. They're thinking half that, maybe less. I processed this. So when the Series C doesn't meet expectations, the company will face a serious cash crunch. They're already operating on the assumption of that $300 million. Marcus has signed contracts, made commitments. If the funding comes in at $150, they'll be in trouble. How much trouble? Without additional capital, they'd have maybe 4 months of runway. 6 if they make serious cuts. I watched a seagull land on the window ledge outside. How much exposure do we have? Your various investment vehicles hold $84 million in Sterling Technologies across multiple funding rounds. You're the largest single investor. The venture fund holds $40 million, your personal portfolio has $22 million, and the family trust you control has another $22 million. And if we withdrew? David was quiet for a moment. The company would collapse within weeks. Your $84 million represents 63% of Sterling Technologies' total funding. Without it, they can't make payroll, can't pay vendors, can't execute contracts. The whole operation shuts down. I'm not making any decisions today, I said. But prepare the paperwork. I want to be ready. Understood. Emma, I have to ask, does your family know? No. Don't you think? No, I repeated. Not yet. After ending the call, I distributed the meeting notes to the board, then headed to my small office, really more of a converted supply closet, down the hall from Marcus's corner suite. 3 weeks later, Dad called a special board meeting. I took my usual corner seat with my laptop. Marcus was practically vibrating with excitement. I've got incredible news, he announced. Goldman Sachs has sent over the term sheet. The Series C is happening. Claire clapped her hands together. Oh, Marcus, that's wonderful. What's the valuation? Dad asked. Marcus's smile flickered slightly. $145 million. The room went quiet. That's... Dad frowned. That's less than half what we discussed. I know, but I've run the numbers. We can make it work. We'll just need to be more strategic about the European expansion. Maybe phase it over 18 months instead of 12. One of the board members, Gerald Patterson, who'd been with Sterling Technologies since the beginning, spoke up. Marcus, you've already signed contracts for the European expansion. You've committed to hiring 35 people. You've leased office space in Munich and Paris. Those costs don't pause just because funding came in lower than expected. I'm aware of that, Gerald, Marcus said tersely. Like I said, we'll be strategic. Strategic means what, exactly? Gerald pressed. You're burning $3 million a month on expansion costs alone. The Goldman funding will cover operations for what, 3 years at current burn? Less if anything goes wrong. Nothing's going to go wrong, Marcus snapped. This is how business works. You take calculated risks. You don't get anywhere by being conservative. I typed every word. Dad intervened. Let's all take a breath. Marcus is right that calculated risks are part of growth. But Gerald raises valid concerns. Marcus, I need you to put together a revised budget that shows exactly how we'll manage the European expansion with the new funding parameters. Of course, Marcus said. I'll have it by Friday. Good. Dad looked around the table. Anything else? I raised my hand slightly. Everyone looked at me like I'd started speaking in tongues. Yes, Emma? Dad said, clearly surprised. The Goldman term sheet, I said. Does it include any conditions on existing debt or investor rights? Marcus's jaw tightened. Why would you ask that? Because Series C terms often include provisions that affect earlier investors. I wanted to make sure those have been reviewed. Of course they've been reviewed, Marcus said. By actual lawyers. People who understand these things. I was just. You were just what? Trying to sound smart. Marcus crossed his arms. Emma, you're here to take notes. Not to question deals that you don't have the experience or expertise to understand. Marcus, Gerald said carefully, actually that's not a bad question. Have we had legal review the impact on Series A and B investors? It's handled, Marcus said firmly. Emma, back to your typing. My fingers returned to the keyboard. After the meeting, Claire cornered me in the hallway. Emma, sweetie, I need to talk to you. I waited. Your father and I have been discussing your future here at Sterling Technologies. We're concerned. About what? About whether this is really the right fit for you, dear. She touched my arm in a way that probably looked maternal to anyone watching. You seem so uncomfortable in these meetings. Always hiding in the corner, barely participating. Is this really what you want to do with your life? I like my job. Do you? Because it doesn't look like it. And honestly, honey, Marcus is right. You don't seem to have the killer instinct this industry requires. You're too soft. Too hesitant. She lowered her voice. Between you and me, I think your father only hired you because he felt guilty about the divorce. He wanted to prove he still cared. But at some point you need to stand on your own feet. I am standing on my own feet. Are you? You're living in your father's building, working at your father's company, taking a salary that, let's be honest, is more than your actual contribution warrants. She smiled sympathetically. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm trying to help you see reality. You're 28 years old. You have a business degree. But you're working as basically a secretary. Doesn't that bother you? No, I said simply. Claire's smile thinned. Well, it bothers us. We think you're wasting your potential. And frankly, it's awkward having you in these board meetings where serious business is discussed. You're a distraction. I'll try to be less distracting. That's not, she sighed. Never mind. Just think about what I said, okay? Maybe it's time to find your own path. Away from the family business. She walked away. I returned to my office and made a call. David, it's Emma. What's wrong? You never call during business hours. I need updated numbers on Sterling Technologies' cash position. And I want to know exactly what happens to their operations if the Goldman Series C falls through. Why would it fall through? Marcus signed the term sheet. Just get me the numbers. David called back within 3 hours. Okay, if the Goldman deal collapses, Sterling Technologies has approximately 8 weeks of cash runway at current burn rate. They'd need emergency funding or they'd have to shut down operations. And our position? Still $84 million across your various holdings. Your venture fund's $40 million makes you the lead investor from the Series B round. You have significant rights, board seat, information rights, veto power on certain decisions. I never exercised the board seat. I know. You said you wanted to keep a low profile. Maybe that was a mistake. I paused. What would happen if I called a special investor meeting? To discuss what? Management decisions. Cash burn. Strategic direction. David was quiet for a long moment. Emma, if you call that meeting, your family will know. They'll figure out who you are. I know. Is that really what you want? After 3 years of keeping this quiet. I looked at the stack of meeting notes on my desk. All those months of sitting silently in the corner, taking notes while Marcus belittled me and Claire questioned my worth. Not yet, I said. But soon. The company gala was Claire's idea. She wanted to celebrate Sterling Technologies' bright future and court potential investors for future funding rounds. The event was held at the Four Seasons with 200 guests, an open bar and a live orchestra. I wore a simple black dress and spent most of the evening standing near the wall, watching. Marcus held court in the center of the room, surrounded by local business press and potential investors. He'd had several drinks and his voice carried across the ballroom. The key to success, he was saying, is surrounding yourself with A players. People who understand business at an instinctive level. You can't teach that. Either you have it or you don't. A journalist nodded, recording on her phone. And what about succession planning? You're relatively young to be running a company approaching $100 million valuation. True, but I've been groomed for this my entire life. My father built this company, but I'm the one who's scaled it. I'm the one who saw the opportunity in Europe. I'm the one who secured the Series C. He paused. Business isn't about where you start. It's about having the vision and killer instinct to capitalize on opportunities. Does the rest of your family work at Sterling Technologies? My father, of course. He's still CO, though I handle most of the day-to-day operations. My stepmother Claire is VP of Strategic Partnerships. And my sister Emma works here too. What does she do? Marcus's eyes found me across the room. Emma? She's more of a support role. Administrative stuff. She takes meeting notes, handles scheduling. That kind of thing. Did she go to business school? She did, actually. But business school doesn't make you a business person. You need practical experience. You need wins under your belt. Emma's still figuring out what she wants to do. Right now, she's basically learning by watching the professionals. Several people laughed. The journalist seemed uncomfortable. I see. And does she? Emma's a sweet kid, Marcus interrupted, but she doesn't have the sterling edge. Not everyone does. Our family business will stay in the hands of people who know how to run it. People who've proven themselves. I felt my phone buzz. A text from David. Need to talk. Call me when you can. I slipped out of the ballroom and found a quiet corner in the hotel lobby. David. We have a problem. I just got off the phone with Goldman Sachs. My stomach dropped. What happened? The Series C is in trouble. Their due diligence team found some issues with Sterling Technologies' customer contracts. Apparently, Marcus overstated the revenue from several European partnerships. Not fraud exactly, but aggressive accounting. Goldman's getting cold feet. How cold? They might pull out entirely. My contact there says the partners are meeting tomorrow to decide. If they pull out, Sterling Technologies is in serious trouble. The company's been operating under the assumption that $300 million was coming in. Marcus spent that money before it existed. They've got obligations they can't meet without new funding. I closed my eyes. And no one else knows yet. Just you and me. The Goldman team will inform Richard and Marcus tomorrow morning. Emma, this is going to get ugly. Your family business is about to crater. It's not my family business, David. I just take notes there. Your 84 million says otherwise. You're the largest investor. When this hits, people are going to look to you for answers. Let them look. I ended the call and stood there for a moment thinking. Then I returned to the gala. Marcus was now on the small stage, microphone in hand, giving an impromptu toast. And I want to thank everyone here tonight for believing in Sterling Technologies. This company started in my father's garage 30 years ago. Now we're expanding across 3 continents. We've got partnerships with Fortune 500 companies. We're revolutionizing the supply chain technology industry. He raised his glass. To the future. To growth. To the Sterling family legacy. Everyone applauded. Claire was crying happy tears. Dad stood beside Marcus, one hand on his shoulder, beaming with pride. I found myself smiling slightly. They had no idea what was coming. The call came at 7:30 the next morning. I was in my apartment, the one I rented myself despite what Claire thought, drinking coffee when my phone rang. Emma Sterling? This is Jason Whitmore from Goldman Sachs. I'm calling regarding the Sterling Technologies Series C funding round. I'm aware of the situation, I said. You are? Has Richard or Marcus? No. I have other sources. Silence on the line. Miss Sterling, I'm looking at our cap table analysis, and I'm seeing some unusual patterns in the investor structure. There's a venture fund called Quantum Capital Partners that holds a significant position. Then there's a family trust, the Catherine Sterling Trust, that also has substantial holdings. And several smaller investment vehicles. All told about 84 million across multiple funding rounds. That sounds right. The thing is, these investments all trace back to the same beneficial owner. Someone who's been systematically acquiring Sterling Technologies equity for the past 3 years, starting with a small angel investment in the Series A and increasing position with each subsequent round. Okay. Miss Sterling, is that beneficial owner you? Yes. Another silence, longer this time. Does your family know? No. Jesus Christ. He let out a breath. Okay, I'm calling because Goldman Sachs is withdrawing from the Series C. We found material misrepresentations in the European partnership agreements. I'm informing all major investors before we notify Richard and Marcus officially. I understand. The thing is, Miss Sterling, you're not just a major investor. You're the lead investor. You've got 63% of the company's total funding. And according to your Series B terms, you have certain protective rights, including approval rights on any new debt or significant operational changes. I'm aware of my rights. Are you planning to exercise them? I looked out my apartment window at the Seattle morning. Mr. Whitmore, when will you inform my father and brother about Goldman's withdrawal? We're sending a letter this morning. They should receive it within the hour. Thank you for letting me know. Miss Sterling, I have to ask, what are you going to do? With Goldman out, Sterling Technologies needs funding desperately. Your $84 million is literally keeping the lights on. If you withdrew, the company would collapse, I finished. Yes, completely. They'd be out of business within a month. I appreciate the call, Mr. Whitmore. I hung up and finished my coffee. Then I called David. Pull the trigger, I said. You're sure? I'm sure. Withdraw all $84 million from Sterling Technologies. All positions, all holdings, all investment vehicles. I want everything liquidated by end of business today. Emma, that's your entire position. And it's going to crash the company. Your father's company. It's not my father's company. It's Marcus's company. Dad's barely involved anymore. He just sits in board meetings and nods while Marcus runs things into the ground. I paused. How long before the withdrawal starts hitting their accounts? The venture fund has 30-day notice provisions, but the family trust and your personal holdings are immediate liquidity. They'll see those withdrawals start processing this morning. Within 3 hours, maybe. Perfect. What are you going to do? I'm going to the office. I have meeting notes to take. I arrived at Sterling Technologies at 9:15. The office was buzzing with unusual energy. People were clustered in hallways, whispering. I went to my small office and opened my laptop. At 9:32, Marcus started shouting. His voice carried down the hallway from his corner office. What do you mean withdrawn? Who authorized this? I could hear Dad's voice too, calmer but strained. Marcus, calm down. Let me call the bank. Dad, it's not just one bank. I'm getting notifications from 3 different institutions. Millions of dollars being pulled from our accounts. I kept typing, working on a summary report of last week's meetings. At 9:45, someone knocked on my door. Gerald Patterson, the veteran board member. Emma, have you heard what's happening? No, I said, not looking up from my screen. There's some kind of financial crisis. Major investors are pulling out. Marcus is losing his mind. He paused. Your father wants everyone in the conference room. Right now. Of course. I gathered my laptop and followed him to the conference room. It was chaos. Marcus was on his phone, pacing frantically. Dad was at the head of the table, looking 10 years older than he had yesterday. Claire sat beside him, pale and frightened. I took my usual corner seat and opened my laptop. Emma, close that, Dad said. This isn't a meeting for notes. This is a crisis. I closed the laptop but stayed quiet. Marcus ended his call and slammed his phone on the table. It's a coordinated attack. Someone is systematically pulling investments from our company. The venture fund that led our Series B, $40 million, is initiating withdrawal procedures. The Catherine Sterling Trust, another $22 million, has already pulled their entire position. And there are 3 other smaller investment vehicles doing the same thing. How much total? Dad asked. $84 million. 63% of our total funding is being withdrawn. Marcus's hands were shaking. Without that capital, we can't make payroll next month. We can't pay vendors. We can't execute the European contracts. We're finished. There has to be some mistake, Claire said. Maybe it's a bank error? It's not a mistake, Gerald said quietly. This is deliberate. Someone wants to destroy this company. Dad rubbed his face. Who? Who would do this? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Marcus grabbed his phone again. I'm calling every contact I have. Someone knows something. My phone buzzed silently in my lap. A text from David. Quantum capital withdrawal processing. Should complete by 2 p.m. Other vehicles completed. You're officially out. I typed back, thank you. Marcus was shouting into his phone now. I don't care if it's irregular. I need to know who owns Quantum Capital Partners. Check the corporate filings, check the beneficial ownership records. He paused, listening. What do you mean it's a private investment vehicle? Everything has ownership records. Dad stood up slowly. Marcus, put the phone down. Dad, I need to. Put it down. Marcus set his phone on the table. Dad looked at him, then at Claire, then at Gerald, then finally at me in my corner. Emma, he said slowly. The Catherine Sterling Trust. That was your mother's trust, wasn't it? Everyone looked at me. Yes, I said simply. The trust that passed to you when she died. Yes. Emma, do you have anything to do with these withdrawals? I met his eyes. Yes. The room went silent. You. Marcus stared at me like I'd just materialized out of thin air. You pulled $22 million from the family trust? Without telling anyone. It's my trust. I don't need to tell anyone. But why would you? He stopped. Wait. You're saying you own the Catherine Sterling Trust. But what about the other investments? The venture fund? The other vehicles? Those are mine too. Marcus laughed, but it was a high, strained sound. No, that's not possible. The Series B venture fund was led by Quantum Capital Partners. That's a serious investment firm. They've got. He grabbed his phone, searching frantically. They've got a professional website, a portfolio of companies, management team. Quantum Capital Partners is an investment firm I established 3 years ago, I said calmly. The management team consists of David Chin, my investment director, and 3 financial analysts. We manage approximately $600 million in assets across various holdings. Sterling Technologies represents 14% of our portfolio. Represented, I corrected. As of 2 hours ago, we're fully divested. Claire made a small sound, almost like a whimper. Dad sank back into his chair. You've been investing in Sterling Technologies for 3 years? Yes. I started with a $5 million angel investment during the Series A round. You needed capital quickly and I provided it through a shell corporation. Marcus never asked where the money came from. He just took it. That was you. Marcus's face was red. The Series A angel investor? Yes. Then I participated in the Series B through Quantum Capital as the lead investor. I took the $40 million position at a favorable valuation because, again, you needed capital and weren't being selective about your investors. I vetted everyone, Marcus said. I did due diligence on Quantum Capital. They checked out. Of course they checked out. It's a legitimate investment firm. I just never mentioned I owned it. I opened my laptop. I also made several smaller investments through other vehicles. The Sterling Family Trust, Oak Ridge Capital, Pacific Northwest Ventures. Altogether, $84 million across 4 funding rounds. Gerald was staring at me with something like awe. You've been the company's largest investor this entire time? Yes. And you never said anything? No one asked. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. You're an entry-level employee. You take meeting notes. You schedule conference calls. How the hell do you have $84 million to invest? I don't take entry-level employment, I said. I take notes at Sterling Technologies because Dad offered me the job and I accepted. But that's not my primary occupation. Then what is? I run Quantum Capital Partners. I manage over $600 million in assets. I sit on the boards of 4 companies. I've been building my investment portfolio since I was 23, starting with money my mother left me and growing it through careful, strategic investments. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Katie left you money? She left me everything, Dad. The trust was worth about $12 million when she died. I was 21. You were busy with the divorce and starting Sterling Technologies, so you didn't really pay attention to what I was doing. I took that $12 million and built it into $600 million over 7 years. That's not possible, Claire said. Nobody grows money that fast. I did. I invested in tech startups before they were fashionable. I bought Bitcoin at $300. I acquired real estate in Seattle before the market boomed. I made smart, aggressive bets that paid off. I looked at Marcus. I did it by understanding business at an instinctive level. By surrounding myself with A players. By having vision and killer instinct. Marcus's mouth opened and closed. Emma, Dad said, why didn't you tell us? Why would I? You never asked what I did with Mom's trust. You assumed I was just coasting on family money, working a nothing job at your company because I couldn't hack it in the real world. I closed my laptop. It was easier to let you think that. But why pull out now? Gerald asked. If you've been invested for 3 years. Because Goldman Sachs withdrew from the Series C this morning. Marcus misrepresented revenue from the European partnerships. Goldman did their due diligence and found the problems. They're out. Marcus went white. How do you know that? Goldman called me 2 hours ago. As the lead investor, I have information rights. They're required to notify me of material changes before they notify management. That's not. They called you before calling us? Yes. I'm the largest investor. I corrected. I was the largest investor. Now I'm completely divested. Dad was shaking his head slowly. Emma, without that 84 million, this company is finished. We can't operate. We can't meet our obligations. Everything your brother has built. Everything Marcus has built? I repeated. Dad, Marcus has built a house of cards. He's been burning 3 million a month on an expansion he can't afford. He's been misrepresenting partnership agreements to investors. He's been operating under the assumption that money will always be available because it always has been. He's reckless. I'm reckless. Marcus's voice was rising. You just destroyed the family business. It's not the family business. You told me that yourself. Remember? 6 months ago you told me this company was for real family. For people with the sterling instinct. I'm just adopted, right? Just a support staffer. Just taking notes. I didn't mean. You meant exactly that. You've spent 6 months treating me like I'm an idiot. Like I'm dead weight you're stuck with because Dad feels guilty. I stood up. So I'm removing myself. All 84 million of myself. Claire's voice was desperate. Emma, please. This company employs 67 people. Those people have families, mortgages, children. If Sterling Technologies fails, they lose everything. Then Marcus should have thought of that before he built a company on other people's money without being responsible with it. I've been responsible. Marcus shouted. I grew this company from 20 million to nearly 100 million in valuation. I secured partnerships. I expanded internationally. You did all of that with my money, I said simply. My 84 million was the foundation of every move you made. Every hire, every expansion, every partnership. Funded by my capital. And you treated me like I was stupid. Dad's face was gray. Emma, I know we didn't appreciate your role here. I know we took you for granted. But please think about what you're doing. This is still a family business, even if we did a poor job of making you feel like family. If you wanted me to feel like family, you wouldn't have let Marcus and Claire spend 6 months belittling me. You wouldn't have sat silent while they questioned my intelligence, my work ethic, my worth. I picked up my laptop. I tried to warn you, by the way. At that board meeting 3 weeks ago, I asked about the Goldman term sheet and its impact on existing investors. Marcus told me to shut up and take notes. Gerald nodded slowly. I remember that. If Marcus had listened, if anyone had taken me seriously for 1 second, I would have explained my concerns about the company's cash position. I would have offered advice on managing the Series C process. I would have helped. I looked at each of them. But nobody wanted my help. You wanted a secretary. So this is revenge? Marcus asked. You're destroying everything because your feelings got hurt? No. This is business. Quantum Capital Partners has a fiduciary duty to its limited partners. When we identified material risks in Sterling Technologies, overextension, misrepresented revenue, failed Series C funding, we had an obligation to protect our capital. So we withdrew. I paused. It's not personal, Marcus. It's just business. You understand business, right? The room was silent except for Claire crying softly. What happens now? Dad asked quietly. Now. Sterling Technologies tries to find emergency funding. You reach out to every investor you know. You beg for bridge loans. You cut costs drastically, lay off most of the European team, close the international offices, scale back to core operations. I walked toward the door. Or you file for bankruptcy and liquidate. That's the more likely outcome. Emma, wait. Dad stood up. Please. I know we failed you. I know I failed you. After your mother died, I got so caught up in building this company that I stopped seeing you. I let Claire and Marcus treat you badly. I'm sorry. I paused at the door. If you give us another chance, Dad continued, I'll make changes. I'll value your input. I'll treat you like a real part of this company. I don't want to be part of this company, Dad. I never did. Then why work here? Why spend 6 months taking notes if you didn't care? I wanted to see if you'd notice, I said simply. I wanted to see if, at any point, you'd realize there was more to me than you assumed. I sat in meeting after meeting watching Marcus make mistakes, watching the company bleed money, wondering if anyone would ask my opinion. No one ever did. Ask now, Gerald said suddenly. Emma, if you were still invested, what would you recommend we do? I considered. Fire Marcus. Bring in professional management. Cut the European expansion entirely and focus on the core North American business. Reduce burn to under $1 million a month. Then approach Series C funding from a position of stability rather than desperation. Would that work? Gerald asked. It would give you a chance. Right now you have no chance. Marcus stood up. Fire me. This is my company. No, I said. It's Dad's company. And it was my capital. You were just the person spending both. I left before anyone could respond. My phone started ringing at noon. First Dad, then Claire, then Marcus. I didn't answer. By 2 p.m. David called. The full withdrawal is complete. All positions liquidated. You're officially out of Sterling Technologies entirely. Good. Emma, they're going to call you. Probably all of them. Multiple times. I know. What are you going to tell them? Nothing. Nothing. There's nothing to say. I made a business decision. Quantum Capital Partners withdrew from an underperforming investment with material misrepresentations and management issues. That's it. David was quiet for a moment. How do you feel? Fine. Really? I looked out my apartment window. I spent 6 months watching my brother treat me like an idiot while running a company into the ground with my money. I spent 6 months listening to my stepmother tell me I wasn't cut out for business. I spent 6 months being invisible while they celebrated themselves. I paused. Yeah, I feel fine. What happens to Sterling Technologies now? They'll try to find emergency funding. They won't get it. No one invests in a company that just lost its lead investor overnight. They'll make cuts, but it won't be enough. They'll probably file for bankruptcy within 60 days. And your dad? Dad will be fine. He's got personal assets, investments outside the company. Claire will probably leave him once the money's gone. Marcus will have to get a real job. I smiled slightly. They'll survive. And you? I'm meeting with 3 new investment opportunities next week. Quantum Capital Partners is doing fine. At 6 p.m. Gerald Patterson called. Unlike the others, I answered. Emma, I need to tell you something, he said. I just left a meeting with Richard and the board. We voted to remove Marcus as president and COO. I sat up straighter. You did. Your father agreed. He said you were right. Marcus was reckless. The misrepresentations to Goldman were worse than Marcus admitted. We're bringing in a professional management team to try to salvage what's left. That's smart. I also told Richard he's an idiot for not recognizing what you'd accomplished. 600 million in assets at 28? That's extraordinary. Thank you. Emma, I know you're out of Sterling Technologies. I know you've moved on. But I wanted you to know that at least one person on that board sees you clearly now. If Quantum Capital Partners ever needs an advisor or board member, I'd be honored to work with you. I appreciate that, Gerald. Good luck, Emma. I think you're going to be just fine. After he hung up, I sat in my apartment watching the sun set over Seattle. My phone buzzed with another call from Marcus. I declined it. Then a text from Dad. We need to talk. Please. I didn't respond. The thing about being underestimated is that people think you're not paying attention. They think you don't notice the condescension, the dismissal, the casual cruelty. They think you're too stupid or too weak to do anything about it. They're wrong. I'd spent 6 months taking notes. Literally and figuratively. I'd watched Marcus overextend. I'd watched Dad enable him. I'd watched Claire position herself as the family's moral center while treating me like garbage. And I'd waited. Because that's what smart investors do. They wait for the perfect moment. They watch for the right opportunity. They let their opponents build confidence, make mistakes, overextend themselves. Then they strike. My phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. Emma Sterling. Miss Sterling, this is Jennifer Walsh from Forbes. I'm writing a story about Quantum Capital Partners and your investment track record. I understand you recently divested from a family company. I smiled. I'd be happy to tell you about Quantum Capital Partners' investment philosophy. When works for you. How about tomorrow morning? Perfect. As I ended the call, I thought about Marcus standing at that gala, giving his toast about the Sterling family legacy, about killer instinct and vision. He'd been right about one thing. Not everyone has it. But I did. And now everyone would know.